Welcome to the great transition, everybody. Hello, Chris, Seth. How you doing, friends?
Ooh,
Hey
hi.
guys.
Hey.
Hello.
All right. Hello to the uh, those who came here early. We hope to see more of you coming in as we go. If you're new here, if you are watching the great transition for the first time, welcome. The world we are living in today is in a very precarious state. Um, if there's no, I don't think there's a chance that you live in today's world and you don't have even a hint of a feeling of what we're talking about, right, guys? Would you agree?
North Korea,
I
maybe?
think.
Maybe they are in the dark still.
And yeah, okay. Anyone
Yeah, and,
else?
and I don't want to ruin the vibe, but I was thinking about just that this morning. I was driving to work and I was thinking to myself,
Mhm.
are there wars maybe in Africa that I just don't know about? Like I really don't get a lot of news. Are there
Mm,
bombings? I was like, okay, well maybe the thing about this was that it's like one nation attacking another nation, but
mhm,
um,
I had that same question, yeah.
what yeah, so maybe just for a second, is there
mhm,
something like let's like get out of the ethnocentricity of it maybe because it's a little closer to us since we
mhm,
have a lot of friends in both of these countries. We know tons of people that we're friendly with from both of these countries. Is there
mhm.
something specifically unique about this one that's
I
different?
I think let me refine the question that I'm bringing up. I think that there's a sense that the world as a whole is going into a more dangerous state. It's very true that we are, of course, we are fed by what the media shows us. Of course, we feel more viscerally and more immediately what's in our city, country, and whatever is farther away. I'm not saying that everyone is worried the whole day about what is happening all around the world, but I think that there's a growing sense of uncertainty, um, a sense of risk, a sense of deterioration,
Yeah,
a
okay, that
sense
I definitely feel
in
more.
in the human family in general. Would
No,
you would
but there's
you
something about, yeah, but there's something about Kiev and this, like, developed country that
Mhm,
I identify with those civilians a lot more than I would identify. And also, you're used to hearing stories even from when I was a kid, Kuwait, Iraq, and all in Syria, and like you're just constantly hearing that there's constantly war. You're growing up with war over there all the time, war all the time, and then you can identify with all of a sudden these civilians that have they just, like they're just like me. I feel that a lot closer. I feel them. I
mhm.
feel like it's I identify with it a lot more.
Right. Okay, so I just, I think it's important to say that again, for those who are new to this conversation, to the great transition, we are looking at what is happening in the world from a Kabbalistic perspective. We're looking through the insight that we are given by this ancient wisdom of Kabbalah that is ancient in the sense that it has a deep foundation that goes back thousands of years ago, but it's also very modern and relevant because this wisdom describes how humanity is developing. The whole process and program of evolution of mankind is what this wisdom is investigating, and that's why it's very relevant to every state that we're going through as a global society. So that's the perspective with which we are approaching things here in the Great Transition. And guys, let me start with this. I you remember we have our daily lesson with our teacher, Kabbalist Dr. Michael Lightman. Um, a few thousand people all over the world are joining this lesson on a regular basis, including students that we have from Ukraine and from Russia and the lessons, because of that, because of what's happening in the world and because of the relevance of the wisdom of Kabbalah, uh, are are very intense in the last few days, right? They're very, it's almost impossible to for something to happen in these exploration of the Kabbalistic texts without relating it to what's happening in the world, because everything is so relevant. You see that what Kabbalists wrote in the last century or even before that is so very relevant to what's happening now. We are in a very unique time in human development. This is the time that Kabbalists of the past have been writing about. It's a very unique time. It's a global era. It's an era where we are developing as a global society and rising to a new level of consciousness. So
Hold
I,
on a sec. Why
yeah,
would the Kabbalists? Kabbalist is not really talking about time. He's not talking about
right.
time. He's writing about something spiritual. So what does it
Yeah,
mean that he's writing about this time?
right. So all of the states of human evolution, they're already encoded in something like we can think about it like a gene, like DNA, the information about how a fruit develops is encoded in its genes, so to speak. So in a similar way, this is what Kabbalists are investigating. They're investigating the collective gene of human evolution, and there they find that all those states of development in potential, they're already there. There's a difference between how they manifest in actual experience of,
Like in an apricot seed is
yeah.
a really sweet
Mhm.
fruit. It's just a hard pit right now, but given all of the conditions, this right now will become that, and the juice will
Yeah.
drip down your cheek. Okay, so it's already there, even
So,
though.
so it's already there in terms of at the level of information. Let's
So
say
our
it's already
final
there,
and good so our final and good state already exists, and the
as well
Kabbalists.
as all the states leading to it. But
So
we are going through them, experiencing them, and producing a picture of reality based on information that our inner vessel is going through. I don't
oh,
want
so
to
that no, that's
confuse
very
it.
interesting. So
Mhm.
the
Okay.
reality that we're depicting on the outside is a reflection of the changes going on inside of the vessel.
Yes.
Okay, and
Wait, but
so
what is vessel, Seth? Maybe we should
inside our
say a word
perception. Let's
about.
just keep
Yeah.
it. I don't want to
Okay.
get
Okay.
hung on
Yeah.
every
Let's keep
single
it.
thing.
I agree. Let's keep it simple.
Okay,
Yeah.
so based on where I am in my development,
Hmm.
I'm feeling what's outside of me, and I'm feeling the program that's already written inside of me according to the qualities of my
It's like playing
uh,
out inside of me, like a
perception.
theater. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah,
So the more
like a movie's playing inside your head, if you want,
okay,
to
so
make it
if
simple. Yeah.
inside of my head I have a TV from the 1980s, so it's kind of blurry and very pixelated. If
Mm,
inside of me I have a TV from 2000, so all of a sudden it's coming into more focus.
yeah.
If I have inside of me a newer TV from 2022,
Hmm.
so then I'm seeing the picture in a different way. So you said that this is a unique time. I'd like to
Yes.
understand what's unique about it besides the fact that I see the picture more clear than I did in
Yeah.
1980.
Okay.
Well, and
Let's get into
well,
this.
before Asaf says it,
Yeah.
because I know he's going to say it, I know that we talked about it a long time ago when the virus started, that this is a global virus and the whole world will feel this virus.
Yeah.
Even though the war right now physically is stuck between, these two geographical areas, I still feel it as a global war. It's like penetrating all of us the same way that this virus did. That's
Russia gives
already
the U.S.
Yeah.
the U.S. imports something like 20% of our natural gas from Russia. So
Hmm.
if that turns off, that definitely changes life over here. We already see gas prices rising. Who knows if it's for the same reason? Germany gets, I think, most of their natural gas, the majority of their natural gas from Russia as well.
Right.
Ukraine produces 12% of the world's corn or wheat or something. So if that
Mm.
isn't able to be exported or farmed well, that'll definitely affect food supply. And so, I mean, it's just dominoes. Everything will
it's such
trickle.
a
There's so many things, but
sensitive
that's just a few.
system, yeah.
Okay, so it is sensitive.
Yeah. It's interdependent. It's one system. Humanity is a single system. That's what we're discovering. So, okay. So step back. Let's take a step back here. So what's unique about our time, and why is it so much different to look at? Let's just say this. Let me just say this. It's a very different world and different reality when you look through the eyes of Kabbalah. And I had this back and forth in with our teacher a couple days ago, for a couple minutes, about what's happening in the world, and I was so inspired by what I was able to hear, that I really think if we can somehow help people uh, open their minds and see a deeper um, picture of reality, and consider this perspective of the wisdom of Kabbalah, I really think this can um, take people behind the scenes and give them hope, because they can see where we're moving into, and even understand how we can, right now, in this horrible state the world is in, how we can do something. Every one of us can do something. Doesn't matter where you are, who you are, where you're from, what you know or don't know about this war or anything. We are part of the same collective organism, and therefore we're connected. And if we tap into that connection and we understand that there's a latitude for every one of us to move the world into a better place, to move the human family
There,
into a higher state of consciousness.
there's
That's,
something that,
yeah,
there's something about the actual method of what we're learning that shifts it, and the weapon that we use in the spiritual war is so counterintuitive to what we see in the news and how
that's true.
what's going on outside is presented to us. There's a great metaphor, analogy that Bala Sulam writes about a kid um, who
Sulam
wants
being the greatest Kabbalist of the previous century. Yeah.
a child and his father are in the street walking somewhere, and the kid wants something, but the dad knows he's going to hurt himself with it.
Oh, all right.
And the kid is just hysterical.
Mm-hmm.
And they're walking down the street, and other people on the street are looking over at them like, this father must be like a monster. Listen to how this kid is. The kid is grabbing on his dad and screaming, and the dad is like, not having any of it, and even like, enough already. And people are like concerned, and someone gets up enough a nerve and says to this guy, like, what are you, we're going to call the police, like, what's going on? And the guy says, no, my kid wants, like, he's got some scratch and he's asking me for like a razor or a needle. He's going to, to itch it or something like that. And he's going to cut himself open, or he's going to hurt himself. And so then you're like, oh, yeah. Okay. So, can I get you some ice, or, or like, let's get him some ice cream, or like, let's help him calm down. But until you know the bigger picture, see the bigger picture, you see a kid freaking out and some dad who just, negligent. You just see and all you had is like one more little understanding. You rose a little bit higher and kind of took in a little bit more perception on the situation. And all of a sudden, ching, 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 everything just falls into place. You didn't need to go fix anything.
Right.
You didn't need to change anything except your feeling about
That's
what's going
so
on, your
hard, though.
perception.
It's so hard when you're talking about people dying and you see videos
Right.
of people, of just mutilated bodies, and just such heartbreak, and just, it's, I mean, what's available on the internet for you to see, just you can incorporate yourself and just feel it so much more. But you can say, yeah, I understand the big picture, he wants to scratch his eye with a needle, but then also it's a real battle when you have to put that on top of seeing just many people dying and many people suffering. That's really difficult.
Yeah. Yeah. But I think that's our job here, to try to go deeper and offer people a deeper picture of the same reality, not playing down or ignoring the horrible suffering and pain that people are in, but putting it in a new context. And even from that new context, even coming to a point where we can show how that suffering can be alleviated, ameliorated, even averted altogether. So
So
I
you want
think
to take us down a couple, you're going to like bring us down like a path kind
let's
of
let's just
explanation.
go and I mean, look, we're looking at this war, and we see two nations, two countries seemingly in conflict. But what you see, even without a deeper perspective, you see that the whole world is involved. You see that leaders and countries, political parties, even people are being kind of pushed and forced to take sides. You see that there's all sorts of alliances that are being formed, who's against and who's with, and um, then there's sanctions that are being discussed this whole time. And like Seth started mentioning before, the sanctions kind of run into sanctions on Russia that people are talking about, are they run into the wall of interdependence. On the one hand, the some there's an attempt to stop what is happening. On the other hand, the means to do it are like
Germany decided to purchase another 500 million, I don't know how much, in weapons. Simultaneously, they pay a rent. With the new pipeline, they would be paying like 15 billion a month or something like that. I don't know all the numbers. A lot of money. So on the one hand, they're buying more weapons because of the conflict. On the other hand, they're paying rent, or they're paying
right.
lease for this oil, or they're paying for this gas from Russia every month. So it's
So they're
Yeah,
feeling
so
it.
you
They're making
see.
this
Mhm.
decision to to like cripple something else, but at the same time they know that they themselves are taking taking a hit from that
it's not
decision.
even about should we do anything towards Russia or shouldn't we, or any of that. The whole point is that regardless of what we do, everyone, it turns out now, is feeding off of everyone.
Exactly. So this is what you see in on our level of perception. In this very basic, straightforward way, we see that the world is becoming so interdependent, so intertwined, that it's really it really is an impossible exercise to isolate a problem or a leader or a country and fix it. You can't. There's a network of ties and connections, whether it's financially, economically, commercially, communications wise, information wise, natural resources, production, that are so intricate that it's becoming very difficult. And what you also see on this level is that there's more and more talk and risk of an actual world war. I don't want to go into history and spend a lot of time on this, but if you go back to what started World War One and what started World War Two, there could be like one um, match that lights the whole fire here. There's um, there's a breeding ground for world war that is taking shape. So um, what's up, guys? Did you find something really we should really relate to in the chat?
No.
No. Anyway, yeah, Gary Higgins writes every little move affects everyone in a negative way. Yeah, we're in a closed system. That's what we're seeing, and it's becoming more dangerous and risky, fragile. And a lot of analysts are talking about the prospect of a world war. But let's go deeper. What the picture that we are seeing, the picture that we are reading about in the news and feeling on our flesh, and analyzing and considering what will happen and so on, all of that from a Kabbalistic perspective is surface level perception. This is the tip of the iceberg. This is the level of consequences. This is the most rudimentary, basic level of perception of what we are and what we are going through. We are looking at a level of consequences. We're looking at the outer picture of an inner program. Our teacher, Kabbalist Michael Lightman, likes to years in many years ago, he would use to explain perception of reality, he would use this example of an embroidery. I think it can serve us well here. How on the front of it, Chris, you know what, if you have some picture to show that makes sense, go for it. If not,
All
I'll
right.
just I'll just put a picture. Let's put a visual in everyone's mind. So in the front of it, in the front of this embroidery, you have a picture, but behind it, what you see is that the back side of it, the behind the scenes, is just a mass of threads that are completely sewn together. They're completely tied to each other. The wiring that makes the picture happens behind the scenes. And so we don't see the wiring. We're seeing the surface picture. We're seeing, yeah, these things. It would be really cool if we can see like the back and front of the same thing.
Yeah,
Sometimes
that's
there's,
it. On the top is
yeah.
the
Oh,
front,
right,
and
right,
the
right,
bottom is the
right,
back.
right. Yeah, in this case, they're even somewhat similar. But you can't. But if you look only at the back, you can't understand the front, and if you look only at the front, you can't guess the wirings. That's really the point. So there's a deeper reality where everything's wired together and boots up in our perception a material physical experience of the world, that where we see two nations in conflict and a world that is deteriorating and creating a breeding ground for a world war. But something's happening at the level of the wiring. And at that level, the first thing to understand, and it's a simple thing that today every modern person can understand because our world is becoming like that and showing that to us in many ways. On that deeper level, behind the scenes, humanity is a single network. It's one global species, it's one global entity, and it evolves as a single network. So while we are typically and initially, there's a better word, instinctively, thank you. While we instinctively are tied to our personal story of life, maybe our culture, maybe our nation, the people that we are a part of, our family for sure, there's also a global narrative that we are not focused on, meaning just like an individual evolves and develops, and just like a family has its own kind of family unit development, and just like a nation has its own history and development, humanity as a whole is going through something as a single network. That's what Kabbalah is all about. That is the perspective that if we acquire it, if we penetrate through to that picture, we can see things a lot clearer. We can understand even what is the role of what is happening right now and what we can do about it.
Wait a second.
So, yeah.
That's
Yeah, go
really
ahead.
interesting because when I was doing research, we had a show before, and I was doing research, and I came across this quote about how COVID affected everyone's lives, and they're like, a microbe, revealed the lie of rugged individualism. I thought that was an interesting quote, and they continued. They said, "We are not self-sufficient and independent. We never have been. Our fates are bound together. Taking care of others is taking care of ourselves." Now, that was from Scientific American, so that was, that's not
Mm,
some, psychological or
mhm.
sociological, explanation of something. It's just, they're looking at it as a matter of fact. And before that, there was another time on a show I was doing research about something, and it talked exactly about this, how this network kind of expands. And I think Seth also has something about this he wanted to say earlier because we were talking about it.
Let's put a visual of a network. Any kind of
I
just,
can't share it,
whatever.
Seth. You're gonna have to share because it's like switches the screens and it does something weird. So
Yeah,
what? So what? So while you're
any
finding
kind of
that, I'll tell you the
network that will
story.
help us. I think that will help our
It's
discussion.
really
Sorry, go ahead.
interesting. Yeah, yeah. So that'll help. So, so you take anything. I somehow came across researching. There was like esports or something. How esports became this big thing all of a sudden, and it made me think, what's actually happening? You have these people um, you know, who are interested in games. And so they kind of like find themselves, they find themselves and they kind of come together, they start communicating. So what they're really doing is like building a network, sharing information. They open up a website. Hey, we're doing this new type of gaming called speed running, and so there's people with this specific desire to speed run, like go over here, and then they connect amongst themselves, and they create websites, and everyone's sharing their. It's like you look at it from a top, from a below, from above down, And you really do see a network, and you see how it happens. It's just desires, people get together, information flows between them, and it's like in real life happening. We just now just starting to see that that's how humanity is, and what are
And
the
you said,
implications of that.
and you added another kabbalistically magic word here, which is desires. That's exactly where I was going, actually. Humanity, we're not, what kind of a network are we? So behind the picture of the material world, behind our bodies, behind all the events and occurrences and things and people and what we say to each other and media and whatever it is, behind this whole picture, physical experience of the world, there are non-material entities built from desires. These
Let me
are
show
the
you.
nodes in the network.
In my
Okay,
first
what
book,
is
I had a
this?
couple pictures. So this is from my first book.
Mm,
Showed this kind of thing. So this is a leaf, obviously, right?
right,
And then you can also look. It's everywhere. And actually, there's a chapter called Networks. There's the lungs. It's like
right.
it branches in a similar way.
Oh
And
yeah,
then
everything in reality
and
is
then at the end,
networks.
even the if you look at like
Yes,
how the electrical grid, the electrical grid in the United States is set up, it also follows a similar kind of
right. What
Oh
we
yeah, that's cool.
produce also has network structure. The internet being such an obvious example, right? The Right. Okay. So let's put that visual. Thank you. That one was really good. The
yeah.
let's put that
So
visual of the what?
sorry, go ahead.
Let's put the visual of keep the visual of the network in our minds and kind of work with it. Right. So network of desires. That's what you see on a deeper level. Now the thing is, what are they doing? What is happening in the deeper picture of reality that is producing somehow this horrible, violent war at the moment? What is happening there at the program level, at the backside, the opposite side of the embroidery? What is going on
But
there?
wait, I still feel
You know?
like we're at one point we're talking about like our bodies in this
Mm.
world. We see like bodies doing things, but then what you're saying kind of makes you forces you to rise above this
Yeah,
perspective where I'm just
that
looking through these eyes. What eyes
yeah,
then am I using?
that's
It's
I think that's the first obstacle I would say or hurdle to kind of to go over when you get into to really internalize the Kabbalistic model of reality, let's say. We have to um we have to go beyond the bodies for a minute here, just in order um to then see how the things connect, but we have to go beyond the picture that we're seeing. Um and then we'll see how these things come together and how a deeper program determines and dictates the picture that we experience, and also whether there's something we can do in between. We as the players, the participants, the nodes in the network, can we do something about how we experience the deeper program? That's the question that Kabbalists are asking
I want
and
to say,
answering. Yeah.
I'm going to chime in here and say that no, we can't. Um, and what I mean by that is, of course, we can, but no, we can't, because when we can, it's like, can we make a human? Like, what's the answer? Okay, yes, we can. Okay, what are you going to do? You're going to put a man and a woman together. Well, that's not going to be enough. You need this life force also. Like, we can't actually, you know, someone had an idea to make a rocket ship, but where did the idea come from? How many hours do you just sit there in your chair until the idea comes? Like, anything
Mhm.
that happens in this world, like, where is the life force come from? I'm going to make a business I'm going to be the richest person in the world. Okay, well, as long as you get up in the morning and all of your heart starts beating and you're taking in air and you get energy from life, then you'll be able to. Your protein will be able to move into your office and move your fingers onto the computer. But where's the life force coming from? So when we uh, well, I'm not sure how I'm making this leap to this at this point, but the question was, can we do it?
Wait,
Uh,
wait. So you are
Can the bodies do it?
delineating.
Yeah.
You're deleting differentiating between there are some conditions and some elements of the network and of the system and everything that's happening to us in life that we just can't determine and we can't come up with, we can't create.
What I'm trying,
Meaning,
what I'm delineating is where it
okay,
is and where it's not.
yes,
Like everyone in the world
that's a
wants to
better way
do
of putting
something.
it. Yeah,
Is this what you're talking about? Everyone in the world wants to do something. Like, oh, I want to
And we
do. What do I
can
do?
do it if we, for example, the male and the female come together to make a baby, right? But they also have to do it at the time when she's fertile. And they also have to do it at a time, like there's different conditions of nature. And when you do all the conditions correctly, the magic of the life force energy fills that protein and there's a heartbeat and there's life. And you don't,
guys, 1 second. I think the friends are saying in the chat that the video is frozen,
okay.
and I don't even know if they hear. I think they hear us, but they don't see us. I mean, the video is frozen, but they keep hearing us. That's what I get from the
We're
chat here.
transmitting Bina, but no Chofra.
So yeah.
Wait,
I also
so
see
then,
that
yeah. What do we do
yeah,
then?
this
I
is
have a
happening,
whole
right?
list of dirty Kabbalistic jokes. This might be the time to tell them.
No,
And we're live. Wait a second. Okay, wait. No. So should I just wait a second?
Are we
Should I
fixed?
just
Are we fixed?
Can I stop the stream on my end, not on YouTube
And
/
then
Facebook,
redo
and then
it?
restart it again? Will I do something?
I think that's not a bad idea. Yeah, go ahead. Do
I
that.
feel like
Let's
that's all
try.
we
Let's
can
give
do.
it a
All
shot.
right. Here we go.
It sounds okay. Our video is frozen. Our sound is
Okay, I
is
just
working.
did the stream again. It said it lost signal. The signal's back, but it's still frozen.
Wow, you're still with us even though we can't see each other. That's nice.
Oh,
Nice,
and I'm
friends.
trying to send a message, but we're on this delayed messaging thing also, aren't we?
Wait a second. I see
Right.
what's happening. I think I see what's happening.
Okay,
V
maybe if
V
you
vmix
go
is
ahead and
frozen. But vmix is frozen. What do you know what to do if vmix is frozen?
so that means that if you stop the whole thing now,
Yeah,
then it might kill the whole broadcast. That's what you're saying?
maybe. If I load the preset again.
We could also just stay with I think it's me there on
It is
the
you. It
screen
is
that
you.
is
If it's gonna be any of
Okay,
us.
so
at
Chris,
least
is there
if
something
it
that
was
can
a
be done?
picture of the three of us, it made more sense, but
I'm just gonna restart. I'm just gonna reload vmix and see what happens. Yeah.
okay, let's do it. Guys, we will be with you in hopefully a few seconds. And in the meantime, let's think about our connection in the network.
Here we go.
Are we broadcasting right now?
I don't know what's happening. 1 second.
I think it's you can pick up the guitar and play something.
I believe before I was born, I mean, before my soul came down. We were in eternal love, now I long for you again. Sometimes you get me so upset, and I see behind you is your soul. Sunshine, moonshine, see something broken becomes whole. Little by little I let you into my life, till I let you in entirely, until all my bones cry. Little by little I let you into my life, till I let you in entirely, until all my bones cry. I need. Okay, we're back, huh?
Yes, we are back in the network.
What?
Um,
We were talking about the network. We were talking about, first of all,
and we were just given a great example. Yeah.
that was great. Thanks for
Um,
sticking with us, guys. We will continue on as long as we can emotionally find ourselves back on that path
yeah,
wherever it was.
I think we never even left it. We are always inside the network. Whatever happens in humanity, in this picture of the world, there's the network never shuts down. This is exactly what we were talking about, meaning the interconnection that exists between the nodes in the network is always there. So what is the network doing? What is it that the inner essence of the human being, which is desire, what is it that all those desires are doing in the system? And what Kabbalists find is that these desires are gradually becoming conscious that they are connected together. That is the essence of the evolutionary process that we are not familiar with and not seeing. We are nodes in a network that are gradually discovering our sense of connection to a single network, a single collective consciousness, if you will. We're gradually discovering that through the connections between us, exactly like this. I was just about to say, think neurons. Yes, exactly. So, in our brain, as an example, right? As an example, in our brain, there are neurons that are making connections. And through these connections, they communicate with each other. And the communication between the neurons in your brain is essentially all a reflection of all the experiences that you go through.
The
Um,
connections, not the nodes themselves, you're saying.
yeah, the communication, the
Like
connection,
when you have an
the
aha moment.
reciprocity. Yeah, when you have even a new idea or an aha moment or something, literally connections, neural pathways are being made between the neurons in your brain. So similarly,
So if you're a cave person,
yeah,
you don't have as much fireworks going off, but the more you start to develop and thinking about connections with others and how I'm related and what's happening, so all of a sudden all of these new paths start to illuminate.
right. But that's just our brain, which is just an external appearance that we can research through the five senses. We're saying there's a deeper network that we are before, let's say, that precedes, that is more, not in terms of time, that is deeper, that is the source of the external reality.
That expression
And
has like an inner, there's an essence, there's a concept of network that we see expressed as like these things coming together, but
yes,
internally it just means mutual interdependence.
right. So um so here is how do the nodes develop the sense that they're connected to a single network? That's what we have to
In other
understand.
words, how will all of
Yeah.
humanity become a connected single entity?
Yes. Yes. Um,
So
yeah.
it would be great. I understand where you're taking us now. That somehow that through this war,
Mm-hmm.
different connections are being made, not just between these two nations, but between all of these nations. It's hastening the process of making connections. I imagine that that's where you're taking us. I'd like to wonder how, is does the good version of that just means we allow Jeff Bezos to deliver stuff between every country very fast? Is
Wait,
the
wait,
good
wait, wait. You're jumping the gun, man. You're jumping the gun here. We have to go one more step here.
You're
Maybe.
such a patient person. I'm so what's it called? Not impatient, but there's an even better
Oh man,
word for
this is
impatient.
you
I'm
know the
so
fun the funniest thing with I'm totally going off to a tangent now. You just threw me on a tangent now. The What my wife and I, the you just said I'm very patient, and it's funny. would like to think of myself as patient. It really depends on patience with what the uh so tell it to my wife anyway. The
Like you have no
but
patience when it's time to leave the house and she's getting ready still.
no,
It,
it's
they
because we
always say the
talk. we
opposite
we what you would
because
say I'm impatient.
they just see the worst.
Ah,
You can unleash your complete self, in front of
it
the yeah.
it's funny, like with my wife, because we have like these deep conversations about everything, and so she sees how I'm patient with certain things and impatient with other things, as everyone,
Absolutely. For
so
some
it's
reason,
it's a
when you
fun.
just started talking about that, I started think this is not connected at all. But just a thought like flew in. I haven't been able to enjoy things since the war. Like things that I would normally be able to enjoy, it's
Wow,
just
my wife just said
tainted.
that today and yesterday. She's like, yes. She's like, can we even, like, we even had today there was a bar mitzvah to my brother's
Lot
son.
of.
And my brother is a veteran Kabbalist, as you know, but maybe our viewers don't. And so there was family there, people who don't necessarily know what the wisdom of Kabbalah is, but there was also a lot of our friends there. And it was weird for the family because our friends, who said some words and Mazel Tov and so on, they also spoke about what we actually have to do to make the world a better place, and thinking about, and raised this thought about thinking about everyone who's suffering a war right now. And that was a very weird thing for people, because as you can't detach from what is
That's the
happening.
thing. You can't
if
detach
you
from it. Yeah.
if you I totally agree with that. It doesn't, these are already
That's
personal and
another. But I
emotional
say
things.
that just
I don't
because
know
it's
if we can talk
another.
about it in a way that people, yeah.
I'm
What?
sure we're gonna have another chance to talk about the war. It's just another
Unless we
expression of
stop
the
it
connect.
quickly, and
Unless
then, so
God
let's
forbid
talk
that it
about that.
continues. But listen,
let's let's
that's just another expression of how we're connected. Like, what does it mean that I didn't feel that before, So we're in a special time. We're connected. We're revealing it. And you were just saying
wait.
that.
I think Sandra from in the chat here is identifying with this feeling that
Yeah.
it's hard to even, enjoy things, or she says that's exactly what I've been feeling. Thank you for saying that. So thank you, everybody who are identifying with us and feeling this similar thing here. um that's what Kabbalah does to you. It sharpens your sensitivities in a way. Anyway, where were we? What, Chris? You just asked a great question, and I
No, you said it. You said that we were
digressed.
interconnected. Need to become aware of it.
So how do we become? So we are to become, the nodes in the network are to become collectively conscious. We have to make. How does that happen? We have to develop a sense of our connection. Our whole picture of the world, our current experience that we call the material world, is produced by the lack of connection that we feel as nodes in the system. We are bubbled up, we are wrapped by some membrane, let's say, that separates us, our consciousness, from the other nodes in the network. That produces an experience where we think we are bodies that live and die
Hold
and
on,
even fight each other.
we need another special discernment right here also.
Okay.
Let's really differentiate the authentic wisdom of Kabbalah. First of all, when you are in a group of other Kabbalists and you have a teacher, so then that's not called religion already. Then you're already working in the wisdom of Kabbalah. If you're not connected with the group and you're not connected with the teacher, then it's what you imagine is happening. And then if there's a billion people have different imaginations about what's happening. You have a relationship with your God, with whoever it is, but it's just based on how you interpret the books, how you interpret something you read. When you're engaged in the wisdom of Kabbalah, there's not something that we'll do a whole show on what's the difference between the individual and the collective. It's very, very important. But inside the wisdom of Kabbalah, it's made up of individuals. who are connected in a certain way. Okay. With that being said, once you enter into this network, uh, there is a lot of times, Asaf, when we talk, and I think it's really important to bring up, it's not like someone did something wrong or somebody sinned, or
Yeah.
the reason why the bad is happening is because yesterday we didn't, talk nice to each other. So today Putin dropped the bomb or something like that. We also, once we enter into this new perception, the spiritual perception that we're talking about, you have
Hmm.
to bring everything with it as well. I mean, you still keep your protein body here. You're living and eating and all that, but you have to bring all of your perception along with you. It's not that in yesterday I did this, and therefore today I'm being punished for that. But actually, everything is all good. Once you enter into the network, into that system that we're talking about, there is no time there, and there is no mistakes there. What happens there is just like when you saw the kid screaming on the street, and once you found out what happened, you didn't have to go and have the kid sit on a couch like Sigmund Freud would say, tell me about your mom, and why are you screaming, and what did your dad say to you, and how did it make you feel when your dad said it, and dad, don't you think you should have listened to your son? No, once you understand that the kid was trying to hurt himself, and the dad cares, that this Kabbalah Islam calls it, like, he cares about him like the apple of his eye, like he's his precious child. He doesn't want his child to be hurt. And now you say, oh, he's just taking him home. He's going to bandage up the thing. He just doesn't want to give him a razor blade to cut himself. Like, everything changes. So you need to bring all of the changed perception with you into this new worldview that we're opening up here. So when you come along into this worldview that we're now going to open up a little bit, you have to leave it. You can go back to it later if you want, but you can't keep all of the stuff you learned in other places as a child or yesterday into this new worldview and try and fit those pieces in, those characters in there. So let's try and understand this new worldview from a new perspective, a collective perspective, together, all of us together. From all, it doesn't matter our color, doesn't matter any of that. Whoever we are, we arrived at this wisdom here. We have the Kabbalist explaining to us the system. Now let's go into it from there, and then we will be able to uh, have more kind of access into what's going on without being confused.
Right, right. So from, and that's a hard step to take in the beginning, because we, in that network, we're all the same. We're all equal in our singular influence on the system. Meaning, in an interdependent system, the small, the big, the this shape or that shape, or it doesn't matter who you are and what your individual desires are, you're only as important as the other parts of the system, just like in a body, just like any organism. So what is it that we are going through that creates our experience in this world, and how can we actually use this insight to prevent war? Can we prevent war? Can we stop war? Can we prevent this downward spiral that the world is going into? And if we aim ourselves correctly for where the network is pushing us to begin with, then we can do it. So the nodes in the
Wait a
network.
second. Say that again, but just a little more words. That's the whole key to
I'm
this
getting
whole
there.
thing. That's the
I
whole
think
difference. You just kind
yes,
of skipped
yes.
over it, but okay. Go ahead
You're
if
right.
you
You're
want to
right.
keep going.
But the evolutionary program keeps getting the nodes to bump against each other. That has to happen. Why? Because they're developing a sense of their connection. You can't develop a sense of the connection between the nodes without some friction between those nodes. You have to put them together. And so the friction between the desires in the spiritual system produces all the interactions that you see and experience in life in this world. So when you, whether it's a little subtle emotional conflict with your wife or a full blown out, a violent, bloody war between nations, friction between the nodes in the network. Why? Because the nodes are gradually finding the right configuration of connection between them that will make them as one, that will make them work as one. They're going through all of those different configurations until they find the right connection between them. All those states of different configurations in the system until they become as into a complete connection, a perfect connection, are already predetermined. If we begin to aim ourselves towards our next level of connection all the time, towards the perfect state, towards becoming as one, then we don't need to spend so much time in this world feeling the friction between us intensifying.
Right. We'll understand through this war how interdependent we are. But we can also understand how and the purpose of creation is to take us to a good connection between everyone. So
let me give an example here. Let me
Okay.
put another visual, right? Because what's an organism? Any organism, any organism in this world, when we research it through the five senses with our natural sciences, right? Look at a donkey or a horse or a frog, whatever. It's a collection of individual units, call it cells, let's say, that work as one. We see with our eyes one horse or one frog. But if you go deeper, you see that it's a community of potentially billions.
It's like many states, which you can call the organs. And then inside the organs, there's many cities, which are the different.
Yeah, cells, tissues, organs, organ
exactly.
systems. Yeah.
It's all, and that is the story that we need to start relating to and identifying with. We are one organism, one body. And what is it that we're doing now? We're trying to find the configuration, the connection between us that will allow us to work as one
and
thing.
Why? When we discover, what's the benefit of actually discovering the connections?
Well,
we discover the mind of the creator.
Yes.
We attain the mind that created us all connected.
We acquire a higher level of consciousness. That level of consciousness is similar to the law of nature itself, which we call the creator in the wisdom of Kabbalah. We become similar in our shape, in our shape of connection between the desires, becomes the way they work together, the way they configure themselves becomes similar to the law of nature that guides them to begin with. And that law of nature is complete connection, complete interdependence, complete bestowal, and complete love. And that is beyond time and beyond space. It's beyond this whole physical experience that we have in this world. But if we don't embrace those future states of a better configuration, better connection between the nodes in the system, if we're resistant or even just ignorant of that, then the friction between us has to continue and
you know what?
intensify.
Even that wouldn't be that bad if there was no mainstream media, because then you would just kind of like, this feels really bad, so let me move away from that towards something good. Okay, you would just kind of
wait. How did you jump into mainstream media here?
because you're saying either you learn it and then you speed up the process because you understand what's happening and how to do it consciously, and through discovering it, we discover the mind that organized all of that and made this perfect love. Alternatively, the system itself can push us along. But how does the system of nature push us along? Easy. When it wants to fertilize this field and not this field, so all the root systems move over to here, and then, or if like nature wants you to move over there, she makes a forest fire over here, and then everyone moves over here. So if we didn't have, but the problem with news, etc., is there's a forest fire here, and the news says that's not really a forest fire. Or, you want to move over here. It's in the news as well. That's not really, because
Oh,
we're
you mean
not,
it's like slows it down, you mean? It slows us down
we
recognizing.
would anyway
Well, it gets
know.
us to focus on not what we need to do. If that's
Yeah,
what
if
you
you
mean,
keep
yeah.
doing something
Mhm.
that's causing, for example, turn on a game show in the United States, like a TV show that has no inner content, but it's just there to pass time.
The weapons of mass distraction.
So people are sitting there eating fast food, watching something with no that doesn't fill your soul, and then they advertise to you antidepressant medicines and
Right.
medicine for your
Well,
your
now it makes
indigestion.
sense why we needed to have a war break out.
But if you
Now it makes
but
sense
if you
that that's
didn't,
why.
if you
Warm it.
reacted normally, if you ate a food and it made you feel sick, then you move away from that food. But if the media comes and tells you to take this pill and then you won't feel sick anymore, you don't have that
I see what you're saying.
reaction from the food you
You're
ate.
saying instead of awakening and getting smarter with regards to what is actually happening and what we need to do to heal, we're like taking putting a band-aid on it, or
All the
taking a
time.
drug,
With
or
each
All
little
the
like
time.
pain, we're not
just
thinking
con-
about
we're,
where it's directing us. We're just
yes,
thinking about, yeah.
the current, that's besides the people who are conscious of where humanity is going, and our intensifying connection, and therefore intensifying friction in the system. Besides that, humanity is engaged in just distracting itself, focusing on the bad, even inciting conflict because that's good for rating or good for advertisers or whatever. Yeah, that's exactly where our free choice lies. That's where we can consciously participate with evolution instead of being resistant to it, and that's what we're not doing en masse on a global scale. But we're
Just so
doing
it's
it here. We're
just
doing
so
it
it's
here on
clear.
this show. We're doing it with all the people who are in our responding in the chat now. And yeah, just say it, Chris. What you were.
No, your whole point, which was either going through things like wars where we have to feel the friction because we weren't aimed at the goal that nature's pointing us, or we aim at the goal that nature's pointing us and we can go through those experiences somehow in a different way. That's I just want to be able to have that concrete block and take it away from the show
Mhm.
after today and feel that okay, I don't have to go protest in the street. I don't have to go write something. I don't have to go shoot somebody. I don't there's another option. It's like a real tangible option if you engage in it.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay? So let me say one more thing, and then we'll conclude with that. Okay, I'm going to try one more block in this kind of picture that we've been building. The evolution is creating the friction, meaning there is ultimately one force behind everything that is happening. It's the force that reforms us, that puts us in a new form until we become in perfect form, what we call the form of the creator. This law in Kabbalah is called the law of evolution, the law of equivalence of form. That is creating the increasing friction in the system that is causing the nodes in the network to bump against each other. But if we consciously participate towards the connected states that it's pushing us to, meaning if we embrace and aspire towards the next level of connection each time, we're looking to see how we're one network, we're looking to see how we're one organism, we want to shape our desires in that fashion, then we don't need to spend a long time in all those different states of friction. We can just use a little bit of friction as a little jolt to wake us up and to immediately aim for connection. That means that we're using the energy of evolution to our advantage. This is the whole difference between man and animal, between the human consciousness and the still vegetative and animate levels. This is what we can do because we are the conscious nodes in the system. We are the part of the system that's becoming conscious. So if we treat the friction between us as fuel, as potential, for conscious connection to emerge between us, then we are taking the reins and becoming like the creator, like the force of evolution, like the life force itself. This is what Kabbalah is called working in three lines. We take that negative energy, we add our own conscious energy towards connection, we build a new form from these two. And these are the spiritual states, the spiritual degrees that we have to go through, 125 altogether, in order to come to the complete shape of connection, the complete shape of the creator. And there's a fascinating thing that happens here that's going to sound loopy and trippy for people who are not familiar with the wisdom of Kabbalah, but I don't care. I'm going to just say it anyway. The ultimately, we can be so, if we develop this technology of connection, then just like it happens with ordinary technology, where we learn how to do more with less, like today's cars need much less fuel per mile. Why is it? We know how to use more to get more out of the same amount of fuel. Just like that, in the technology of consciousness, the technology of connection that Kabbalists are detailing in their writings, that we are learning and practicing here, we can get to a point where we just need a tiny little friction between us, and we immediately work on connection. Ultimately, and that's the trippy thing, we won't even require a material perception between us. We won't need the friction to materialize within space and time. And that means we will rise from the level of this world. This is what Kabbalists call the final correction. When all of this vessel, all this network of humanity becomes collectively conscious that we no longer need the illusion of separation,
you can
which is the illusion of the
perceive the
material world.
negative feeling. You can grab the positive feeling. You could bring it together with that third force as well, and it doesn't have to. If you don't have the ability, you don't have the perception to identify those things because you're still within a physical perception, then you stay in the physical perception. But you're saying the actions can actually be done as spiritual actions.
Because they're spiritual to begin with. This world doesn't exist to begin with. It's a collective hallucination of our vessels, of our non-material vessels. We are continuously producing this hallucination because based on how we feel the friction, the spiritual friction between us. At the moment, we produce it as an experience where we are separated bodies in a physical world, live and die, and so on. If we raise our consciousness and use the friction, the spiritual friction between us differently, we ultimately won't even need the material world. That's the final correction. And this is where humanity is going in our era. These are the states, the configuration of the network that we're going towards. And that's what's special in our time.
That gives a lot of hope. That gives a lot of hope. And it feels like we
Hopefully
really
it
can't
does.
aim for that. That we can't aim for that. And while Seth is playing, because we do have to wrap up, while Seth is playing, let's all think of it. Whoever's listening right now, let's all think of how much we want the war to end. We don't want any
Yes.
more bloodshed, first of all. And we'll
Mhm.
think about how we could cause all of humanity to, above the hatred, connect in a good way. Find the good connection.
And how is it that each and every one of us can do something? Because we're all connected. If you haven't noticed, we've been saying for an hour that we're one single network. That's the one thing we've been saying in many different ways. And because of that, in that network, every person has a role in developing our collective consciousness. So if you embrace connection, you're already helping all of your fellow members in the network do the same. You're changing, you're shifting the inner intention of the world, of the whole network, towards connection. That's why you can help prevent the war with your heart, with your desire, with your intention. So let's help do that. Oh, yeah.
before I was born. I mean, before my soul came down. We were in eternal love, now I long for you again. Sometimes you get me so upset, then I see behind you is your soul. Sunshine, moonshine, see something broken becomes whole. Little by little I let you into my life, till I let you in entirely, until all my bones cry. We always do our half, and half comes from above. With one end to the next, with the candle over us. You are my reward, so many flavors to enjoy. Everything I taste, it makes me so much more. Little by little I let you into my life, till I let you in entirely, until all my bones cry. Little by little I let you into my life, till I let you in entirely, until all my bones cry. Little by little I, little by little, little by little, little into my life. Little by little I, little by little, little by little, little by little, little by little, little into my life.
Thank you, everybody. We will see you next week. Much love, peace. Let's rise to a new level. We can do it. See you next Thursday, 2 p.m. Eastern. Bye-bye.